And we're working on a deal where the European Union will agree to pay a 25% tariff on all Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs coming into our nation.
But the engine is now starting to slow down. Massive layoffs, factory closures, and rising competition are shaking the very foundation of Germany's industrial strength.
The global auto industry is in crisis. Why Porsche, Mercedes, and Trump are at the center of it. The global automotive market is in turmoil. What was once a seamless exchange of cars and goods across borders has now been complicated by rising tensions between the US and Europe. At the heart of this, we have two of the most iconic automotive companies in the world, Porsche and Mercedes, both based in Germany. These giants are at odds with President Donald Trump's trade demands, signaling a new era of uncertainty for the global automotive industry. These high-stakes tensions involve tariffs, trade deals, and the very future of car production in both the US and Europe. As these giants stand firm against Trump's call to bring production to the US, the industry braces for a ripple effect that could change everything. Let's take a deep dive into these developments and explore how they could reshape not only the automotive industry, but also the broader global economy. What will these moves mean for consumers, manufacturers, and the global supply chain? Stick with us as we explore these issues in detail and unpack the long-term consequences. Porsche makes waves. We won't build in the US. Germany has long been considered the epicenter of the global automotive industry. Renowned for its engineering prowess and a deep-rooted history of automobile manufacturing, Germany is home to some of the world's most prestigious car brands. Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and Volkswagen are not just car manufacturers, they represent the country's economic pride. Their vehicles are sold around the world, from the US to China and beyond. These brands are also responsible for the employment of hundreds of thousands and the creation of countless jobs in the automotive sector. However, the recent trade tensions between the US and Europe have begun to shake this proud foundation. The Trump administration has been under pressure for some time to bring manufacturing jobs back to the US. One of the ways Trump has tried to achieve this is through tariffs, targeting steel and aluminum imports and extending these to the automotive industry. Trump has repeatedly demanded that companies build more of their cars on US soil, offering tax exemptions and other incentives in return. It's a strategy that some have dubbed America First, aimed at boosting US production and reducing reliance on foreign-made products. But not everyone is on board. Porsche, the luxury sports car brand, has been one of the most vocal companies rejecting this push. In a bold statement that sent shockwaves through Washington, Porsche declared, "We have no such plans to move production to the US." This was no quiet refusal. It was a firm stand against the Trump administration's policies, and the message was loud and clear. Porsche is staying in Germany. But why would Porsche, a brand so revered in the US market, reject these incentives? The answer lies in Porsche's deep-rooted ties to Germany. Porsche has decades of history there, with established supply chains, R&D centers, and production lines that have been refined over many years. The company's commitment to its home country is not just a matter of pride, but one of practicality. Shifting production to the US would be an incredibly complex and costly undertaking. Not only would it disrupt Porsche's supply chain, but it would also undermine the company's reputation as a producer of high-end luxury cars with impeccable German engineering. In Porsche's view, staying in Germany is the most efficient choice for long-term success. The ripple effect. Why Porsche's rejection matters. The refusal of Porsche to move its production is more than just a corporate decision. It sends a powerful message to the entire automotive industry. If one of the most prestigious brands in the world can stand up to the US president, what does that mean for the rest of the automotive market? Porsche's decision may set a precedent for other European manufacturers, and this has significant implications for President Trump's agenda. By rejecting the production move to the US, Porsche has directly challenged the America First trade strategy. While Porsche has solidified its commitment to Germany, it also sends a signal that European manufacturers might be less willing to engage with US policies. This isn't just about one car maker, It's about the broader implications of tariffs and trade demands on the global automotive market. Mercedes and Ford seek middle ground, quiet diplomacy amid trade pressures. While Porsche's stance has been firm and public, other brands such as Mercedes and Ford are taking a more cautious approach. These car manufacturers are trying to find a middle ground. Instead of outright rejecting Trump's demands, these companies are in talks with the administration to see if they can reach a compromise that benefits both sides. According to sources close to the situation, Mercedes' CEO has been in talks with Trump to work out a deal. This is seen as a bid to avoid the disastrous effects of additional tariffs while still maintaining a foothold in the U.S. market. While Trump continues to push for more manufacturing in the U.S., Mercedes and Ford are attempting to strike a balance that protects European exports to the U.S., but also complies with some of the administration's demands. It's a delicate balancing act. Mercedes and Ford know that the tariffs could significantly increase the costs of producing cars in the U.S. and make it more difficult for European manufacturers to remain competitive. But at the same time, they understand that pulling out of the U.S. market could have far-reaching consequences. The question for these companies is, can they find a middle ground where they can maintain production in Europe while still meeting Trump's requirements?
If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.
The European steel industry in jeopardy. The impact of auto tariffs. One of the most critical sectors affected by the automotive tariffs is Europe's steel industry. The automotive sector relies heavily on steel for manufacturing, and the increase in tariffs threatens to create a serious bottleneck. As the cost of steel continues to rise, European car makers face higher production costs. This, in turn, makes them less competitive in the U.S. market, where price sensitivity is crucial. The rise in steel prices also impacts the broader European economy. If car manufacturers face higher production costs, they may be forced to increase prices on their vehicles. Consumers in both the U.S. and Europe could feel the pinch as they face higher prices for cars and other products. In Europe, the steel industry could face severe repercussions, as it is one of the largest sources of revenue and employment in many countries. Europe's steel industry has already begun to show signs of strain. According to industry leaders, the tariffs could push European producers to the brink of collapse. The ripple effects could be devastating, with higher production costs not just for cars, but for any industry that relies on steel as a raw material. The broader European economy could also suffer as companies cut back on production and jobs are lost. Friedrich Merz's proposal. Can Europe find a solution? As the crisis deepens, some influential figures in Germany are proposing solutions to mitigate the damage. Friedrich Merz, a prominent political and business leader, has put forward a plan to protect European manufacturers from U.S. tariffs. The goal is to create a mechanism that would allow Europe to respond quickly to any new trade barriers from the U.S., thereby reducing the impact on European car makers. However, Merz's proposal is not without its risks. If Europe retaliates with its own tariffs or trade barriers, it could escalate the situation into a full-blown trade war. The potential for increased tension and conflict is real, and the stakes are high. In this scenario, both the U.S. and European economies could face significant disruption. Merz's plan could offer a way forward, but it also carries the risk of intensifying the conflict. It remains to be seen whether Europe will take this route or if the U.S. and Europe will find a way to resolve the issue through diplomacy and negotiation. What's at stake for U.S. consumers? Higher prices and fewer choices. So what does all of this mean for U.S. consumers? In the short term, it could result in higher prices and fewer choices. If European manufacturers like Porsche and Mercedes are forced to raise their prices due to higher production costs, consumers will feel the impact. Even mid-range vehicles could become too expensive for many American buyers, potentially shifting consumer behavior in the U.S. Additionally, as European brands pull back from the U.S. market, consumers may have fewer options when it comes to choosing cars. This is particularly significant for consumers who have come to rely on the high quality, luxury, and performance of European cars. With fewer models available, U.S. buyers may be forced to look elsewhere or settle for cars that don't meet their preferences. The uncertainty continues. Economic instability looms. Uncertainty is the driving force behind much of the instability in the global automotive market. With the Trump administration's policy shifts and mixed messages about trade deals, companies are finding it difficult to plan for the future. Many manufacturers, including Mercedes and Ford, are holding off on major investments and production decisions until they have a clearer sense of what the future holds. The lack of predictability in trade policies has disrupted markets around the world. In Germany, we've already seen a decline in exports, particularly in the automotive and machinery sectors. Initially, companies overproduced to stock up on inventory in case tariffs were implemented. But now, with no clear decision in sight, sales have slowed down. The global supply chain is in turmoil and companies are stuck in a waiting game. If this uncertainty continues, it could lead to a new economic crisis by 2026. Conclusion: is a new crisis looming in the global auto market? The decision by Porsche to reject President Trump's call to build cars in the U.S. and the ongoing negotiations between Mercedes, Ford, and the U.S. government have the potential to reshape the global automotive market. With tariffs and trade wars continuing to affect production, costs, and sales, the long-term consequences are still unclear. One thing is certain: the uncertainty surrounding trade deals, production costs, and tariffs will continue to affect both European and U.S. consumers. Rising car prices, fewer models, and an unstable global economy are just some of the outcomes of this ongoing crisis. As we move toward 2026, the automotive industry could face a new crisis, one that could affect everything from the supply chain to consumer choices. Will Porsche's firm stance be a turning point for the industry, or will the global economy find a way to adapt to these challenges? So, what do you think? Will the U.S. and Europe find common ground, or is a new trade war on the horizon? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more updates on this and other important global topics. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.